Oh, hey, you know what I learned the other day?
What?
There are awards for podcasts.
Really?
Yes. So
do we have to nominate ourselves?
Somebody has to nominate us.
Oh, we can nominate
We can't even get Facebook likes, followers on Twitter.
Yeah, but we don't know what the criteria is.
Yeah,
we could be already
Google,
be winning.
Google podcast awards and then nominate us for all of them. Okay.
And the winner of Best Podcast with a Cowbell goes to atbanter.com.
This is the AT Banter Podcast, a balanced and entertaining look at assistive technology, accessibility, and its importance in people's lives. Join Rob Minot, Ryan Fleury, and Steve Barclay as they banter with people around the world about anything and everything regarding assistive technology and the disability community. Now, on with the show.
Hey, and welcome to another episode of AT Banter.
Banter.
Oh, did you hear that, Ryan?
I did hear that.
What? Who is that phantom voice?
It's a stranger from the past.
Ooh.
Scary.
My name is Rob Minot. Joining me today, Mr. Ryan Fleury.
Howdy.
And
The one,
the only
Mr. Steve Barclay is
Holy
back.
schmoly, I should be away more to get it like that.
I know, right?
Nice.
That was like an intro. Elvis couldn't have had a better intro than that.
I am so done slacking off. I'm back, boys.
Excellent.
How you been?
I've been okay. You know, had a great summer.
Yep.
Got some nice camping in, some great fishing in. Did a little bit of work in between.
Yeah, we heard you went to like an RV park down in somewhere.
Okanagan.
Lake country.
Mm-hmm.
Lake country. Was that nice?
That was for a presentation, and it was lovely country.
Was it?
Yeah.
Excellent.
Yep. That was a long day. Drove up 3:30 in the morning up to Kelowna. Got there, did my presentation, had lunch with a fella up there, and then turned around and drove back.
Yep.
Hey, Ryan.
Rob,
What are we doing today?
today we are talking with President and CEO of Accessible Media Inc., Mr. David Errington.
Hey, this is a pretty big get. This is a big guy in the industry.
I think so.
AMI. This is a really amazing channel, I have to say.
Can you say that with enthusiasm?
He's back for 10 minutes. He's already given me performance notes. What's with this?
Frickin' droopy dog.
I'll have you know.
Droopy Rob.
No, listen, AMI is... Well, tell the people what AMI is, Ryan.
AMI is the leader in Canada of described audio programming for the blind and visually impaired.
Well, not only that. I mean, they have like, specialty programming.
They do indeed.
Yeah, this is going to be really interesting to talk to somebody this ingrained in the industry, for sure.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. You know, the nice thing about AMI is they're inclusive, right? They hire people from the community as well that have disabilities, and so you kind of get their opinions, but as well as their community reporters who are blind, visually impaired, or other disabilities as well, reporting in with news stories and topics, and it's an interesting look at the Canadian landscape.
Yep, sure is. So that will be coming up a little later. But hey, there is a news article that I want to talk to you guys about. So you want to do some news?
Let's do some news.
Okay, so I'm really interested to get your guys' take on this. I saw this a couple weeks ago, and I was very intrigued. It turns out Audible is getting sued by like 7 publishers for this new feature that they're attempting to roll out called captions. So the publishers are actually taking issue with this new feature that was first unveiled, I guess it would have been in July, and is set to go live this month through partnerships with U.S. schools. The feature uses machine learning to transcribe spoken words into written ones, so users can read along while they listen to an audiobook. The issue, however, is that Audible is doing this based on the audiobook recordings, which have separate licenses to physical books and ebooks. The company is not apparently obtaining the necessary licenses to reproduce the written versions of these works. Now, because Audible is relying on artificial intelligence, it seems like they're trying to claim that there's a distinction between this newly created piece of text that's composed using AI and the actual text from the book. And they're sort of rolling this out as an educational feature. It does actually really help reading comprehension if students can actually read along with text, especially when it's just sort of being fed to them through audio.
Yeah, that is true. The argument is one of semantics, right?
It really is.
No, you think so? See, Audible's buying the rights to produce an audio version. Now they're scraping that and providing a text version that they don't have rights to distribute.
Yes and no. I mean, I really do. I see both sides of this, and I'm kind of right. I'm kind of glad that you're sort of taking the other side because we can have an interesting counterpoint discussion.
Well, I don't know that there's really two sides to it. I think this boils down to just a licensing issue, right? They need to. This just hasn't come up before, so they need to modify their licensing models to make it make sense for both sides. What they're doing, what Audible's doing is admirable, because, like you said, it will provide improved reading comprehension. It also opens up their service for people who are deaf and who can't hear the audio recording as well.
Sure.
Yeah.
But I don't know particularly anything about licensing of book rights, but whether you're taking the text and displaying it or you're using voice recognition to display it, I think is pretty much the same thing.
Well, what Audible has sort of said is that one, it's based off this AI, and they say that the AI isn't flawless. Like if you were to compare the text of the actual text of the book with the AI produced text, there are differences because the AI doesn't get it right completely.
Well, we've tried using AI to provide transcripts of our podcasts, and we know how that turns out.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
So,
and with a lot of books, there's they've purposefully hired voice actors to be able to do things like accents and stuff like that. And how is that going to work with an AI? They would be better to take the actual text of the book and then try and synchronize. Use the AI to try and synchronize it with the spoken word rather than
regenerating.
Rather than voice regenerate it, right? But
But again, I guess what stood out to me about the story in general is it's just this. Here we have Audible that's trying to actually build in this accessibility feature into the service, and we have this pushback from the publishers over something that's. Like you said, it's a little bit semantic.
It's financial.
Yeah.
It's financial.
Yeah, very likely. That's the whole point.
Well, and nobody's going to be able to take this captioning feature because the way the captioning feature works is that the text actually appears in the app as it's being read. It's not like you get a huge text version of the audiobook that you could just take away and print off and go read it and use it like a regular book. It doesn't work like that at all. So there's really no fear that somebody is going to, I bought the audiobook version of this book from Audible and I can go print off the text version using this feature, and now I have the printed copy as well. That can't happen.
Are you sure?
Nor is it likely to.
There's screen recording software and there's audio conversion to text software. I'm sure it could be done.
I don't think
if they can use an AI to capture the audio and turn it into text, then surely you can find something that'll capture the text and turn it into text.
But you could do that using two different programs anyways, right? Like you could use a speech to text. I'm sure there are speech to text programs out there, right?
But is anybody really going to go to that bother though?
Yeah, exactly. No, of course not.
Of course,
and it's more for education anyway, wasn't it?
It is. That's what they're offering it for. So, and I don't see anybody sort of abusing this. So I think what it comes down to is just licensing. The publishers, and it's all the really big publishers like Doubleday, Penguin House. These are
Penguin
all
House.
The
Random House,
whatever. I like Penguin House better. It's all the major book publishers that are pushing back against this. So But it's really, I think you're absolutely right. It's really just licensing semantics. But I don't know. It's just a shame. It seems a shame to me that Audible's getting crap for this and pushback for this when it's really, it's an accessibility feature at the end of the day.
It is unfortunate, but book publishers have had a pretty spotty history when it comes to accessibility and even, providing accessible text for, accessible book production.
Right.
Like producing a Braille copy of a textbook, for example.
Right.
It's been an uphill battle for education systems around the world to get publishers to give them files that can actually be turned into meaningful, accessible documents. So they don't have a stellar record when it comes to accessibility. So
for sure. I mean,
this doesn't really surprise me much.
And it's not only the first time this has happened. I mean, a few years back, apparently Kindle tried to do something similar, just in reverse. They were offering this basically text to speech service that they got all kinds of pushback from the publishers and ended up dropping as well. So, it's frustrating. It's frustrating to see, accessibility trying to be baked in to some of these apps, and then they just sort of get pushback from it.
Yeah.
So.
And the horse.
No, so we'll see. I mean, we'll see how this shakes out. I don't know if they're still planning on rolling out this feature. It supposedly was coming out this month. I don't know if it still is. I don't know if the lawsuit is going to be impacting that somehow. But it'll be something we'll keep an eye on and maybe give you an update in the coming weeks. Hey, Steve, why don't you tell the fine folks about Canadian Assistive Technology?
Well, Canadian Assistive Technology is a Canadian-based distributor of, guess what? Assistive technology.
I would not have guessed that.
Really? Oh, I got to work something better into the name then. And we do all kinds of low vision and blindness aids, as well as all kinds of physical access aids and accessible furniture. You name it. Visit our website at www.canastech.com.
Rick, let me ask you about this. Chaos Technical Services.
Chaos Technical Services.
Don't sound so excited about it. Woo! Speaking of repairs.
We are the sister company to Canastech. We do the repairs on low vision devices, reading machines, for libraries, Braille printers, and pretty well anything in between. We can be found at www.chaostechnicalservices.com.
So this week we'd like to welcome to the show President David Errington from AMI. So David, my name is Ryan, and joining me in the room I have Steve Barclay.
Hello there.
Hi, Stephen.
And Rob Minot.
Hello.
Hey, Rob.
And we're going to try to be gentle with you.
All right. I can handle it. Okay.
Excellent.
Well, hey, thanks so much for taking some time out of your day and talking with us. We're obviously big fans of AMI, but maybe just to set things up for those people who are maybe listening who aren't familiar with AMI, just give us a little bit of a snapshot of what AMI is and what it offers.
So AMI is a media company that we offer 3 broadcast services. 2 television networks, 1 in English, 1 in French, and an audio service. And all of our content is focused on persons with disability with a target to the blind and partially sighted. And all of our content and media platforms are totally accessible, either with captioning or with audio description. So, and it's open description, so you don't have to access it using a remote. Everything we do has open description. So, been on air for the TV side, been on air coming up on 10 years now. And the French side is up on their 5th year. And audio has been around for over 20 years. So a long history of accessibility. We are mandated services by the CRTC, meaning that every cable company, every satellite company in Canada has to carry our services, and we're funded through the CRTC as well.
Now, is AMI fairly unique worldwide? Like, is there any counterpart, say, in the United States or in Europe anywhere that you know of? Or are we?
Yeah, we are the only television network. Yeah, to my knowledge, we are the only full television network dedicated to persons with disabilities in the world.
Wow.
Which makes the Canadian broadcasting system quite special. I know we bitch about it at times, but if you think about it and you compare it to other broadcasting systems around the world, when it comes to accessibility, Canada is a definite leader.
Finally, we lead. We're winning.
Yeah. No, it's there's a few things happening, So like with captioning, it's been that way for a long time now, where all content, 100% of content has to be captioned, both live and non-live TV. With description, we are a leader in the world with respect to description. That's going to take a big leap forward this month, as the CRTC has mandated that all prime time has to be described, excluding news and live events. So Canada has leaps and bounds of total number of hours that are being described compared to any other broadcasting system in the world is quite significant. So we're going to figure out the numbers, but we think it's going to be, if you exclude live event and you exclude news, I think you're going to get close to 70 or 80% of all content on Canadian programming being having description.
Yeah, that'll be nice. It was interesting. I think we covered a story earlier in the summer, though, that some of the big three media companies, I know it was Bell and Chorus were, maybe it's just two.
And Rogers.
That's right. Yeah, so they were kind of doing a little bit of pushback against that, though. They were kind of complaining a little bit about the fact that the 72-hour window wasn't going to allow them to really provide audio descriptions. So it'll kind of be interesting to see where that lands. And yeah, I mean, it's interesting in general that they are getting pushback from that, and that they're making some.
It's not real pushback from the. I'm going to side with the broadcasters. You might be surprised, but I'm going to side with the broadcasters on this. They're not pushing back on the idea of having everything in prime described. They're actually quite embracing that, and they're doing that. The problem they have is on U.S. content that comes in that they simulcast. So say it's a show like CSI or whatnot that they simulcast.
Right.
They may not get that show until the morning of or the day before it airs.
Right.
Okay.
So they physically do not have enough time to add description to that show. And there's no pressure or onus put on the American producer to produce that show with description as of yet.
Okay.
So they're asking for anything that they receive within 72 hours or less, that they get a buy on the first airing of it, and then on the second airing or any other uses like that, say online, they'll add description. So it's really not it's not a pushback or a cost thing that they don't want to do it. It's an actual logistical thing that they don't have the time to turn the description around.
Yeah, see,
that's the relief that they're asking for.
Yeah, well, and that makes sense. I mean, that's something that I don't think that the story we covered, you mentioned the fact that the second run would certainly have audio description. It was just that first simulcast run.
You should have called me.
Clearly. But that's
no, but but the onus should be on like in Canada. I'm gonna guess. I would think the majority of all content that's not live event or news, like just general programming, description is being produced at the source. So when the production creates the show, like Schitt's Creek or something like that, they're adding description at the production level. It's very easy to do. It's not very costly, assuming it's like a tiny bit of their overall budget. But in the States, there's no real push to have that to be done right now. Right. So American production companies are not adding description at the actual production of the product. They're relying on the broadcaster to do it after the fact, which is when you get into problems. So it's really, the onus should be on the actual producer of the content to add description to it at source, and that would solve all the problems.
Well, and it would make the audio description that much better as well. When you've got the actual content creators creating, the descriptions, it's just going to be better than, one of the broadcasters trying to do it.
That's right, and especially if you put time constraints on a broadcaster to turn it around. So you may not get the right voice. It may be rushed. It may not be the quality that you want. There's nothing worse than bad description, So. It's really that is the whole thing. That's the thing that needs to change is when the description is created and developed. It needs to be done at the source as part of the production of the property of the content.
And do you know if NFB or ACB or anybody is pushing that down there?
Yeah, they are. Unlike the Canadian broadcasting system that is government has government oversight, that doesn't really happen in the States. They have the FCC, but it's not really an oversight. It kind of is, but it's not. It's more a technology thing, and there's really not the embrace by government right now. I'm not going to say anything further of enforcing accessibility into law. So you can say you're a proud Canadian. The Canadian broadcasting system is more in line with embracing all people who want to consume media. It's part of the Broadcasting Act, whereas the States, they don't. So I know that the different organizations, the blind and partially sighted organizations in the States lobby on behalf of that, but they don't get much traction, which is unfortunate.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and it's such an important aspect of media. Like it's just something that should have been being done long ago. I mean, if you think of how ubiquitous things like closed captioning has been for 20, 25 years or more, you know, why the heck hasn't something like audio description really gained traction? Because the technology has been there to produce these separate tracks and to be able to offer them.
It's not the technology. The technology is simple. It's not the cost, because you think about what they spend to produce a half-hour show of whatever. It's in the hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not the millions of dollars, right? Yeah. And to produce an hour of description, it's about $1,000. So it's not cost. So it's really just an awareness and a push or impetus to do it is really the issue.
Which in turn comes down to demand. I mean, it's just, you know, people in the community, they just need to make noise and to let them know that this is something that they want. And so, you know, again, I guess it comes down to education and just getting people on board to actually push for these things.
Absolutely, for sure. So
let's switch a little bit and talk a little bit about you yourself. How long have you been with AMI?
This is my 10th year at AMI, and it's gone by really fast, to be honest with you, but it's been special. And I've been in the broadcasting business for about 28 years now, so it's been a good place to be for me, and I'm happy here. We've accomplished a lot in the 10 years that I've been here. We've got a great team, and we got lots to do. So it's a good place to be.
So were you always sort of like when did you sort of become aware of accessibility within media, and what sort of drew you to it, or was it just sort of happenstance?
A bit of both. You know, I my first job in media was at Astral, so I worked on the movie network and things like that. So I knew of captioning back then. This is like in the early 90s, so it's a long time ago. And then I left there to launch a television network called The Score, which is a sports network. And I was, at that point in time, I was more aware of accessibility because I was kind of overseeing it all. So I was very aware of captioning. I was very aware of live captioning, which is a big challenge for us running a sports network because you run so much live programming. I sat on a number of CAB boards, the Pay and Specialty TV board, and so I was kind of aware of it at that side. So it was more or less like I wasn't always like a big advocate. I knew about it. I knew the responsibilities of it. I knew the importance of it as an operator, but I didn't see it as my future at the time. And then when AMI, or at the time VoicePrint, got the license for a television network, they actually I got headhunted for the job. So it was at that point in time where I really kind of dug my heels in and figured out what description was and the importance of it. And so I kind of knew from a regulatory side and from an operational side, but from the advocacy side, I really needed to figure it out and get educated upon it and kind of turn it that way. So it's been a long 10 years of learning and continue to advocate on behalf of accessibility and implementing that and seeing our network and the Canadian broadcasting system and follow up, be kind of a leader worldwide with respect to media and accessibility. So it's been a big learning curve, and I'm still learning different things every day.
So talk to us a little bit about, you know, when you guys sort of first started out, Was it intimidating, the idea of creating this channel that was all the programming was going to be around disability and accessibility? I mean, was it ever a hurdle for you guys to the idea of creating an entire channel based on that?
The mission actually has changed. So when I first came here, our mission statement was to make all media accessible to all Canadians. So, because at the time when I came here, the CRTC had only mandated, I believe it was 4 hours per week of described content. So there's really no description available anywhere on the broadcasting channel. So you think about where we are today compared to then, one. Two, the awareness of what description was, even within the blind and partially sighted community, was quite small at the time, so there was lack of awareness of it. So the actual idea of the channel was to take other people's content and add description to it, add open description to it. So we would buy content from CBC and other Canadian broadcasters. We buy a lot of American content. We buy a lot of foreign movies and things like that. And the channel really was focused on just taking other people's content. It didn't matter if it had disability within the content or not. It was just like general content, adding description to it, and making it available as a source for described content within the Canadian broadcasting system. As we kind of grew, we saw the role shift to more of that as a network that creates content for the people in the community. So it's content that's relevant to them. So as other broadcasters added more and more description, and even now, if you think about it, 100% of prime time is going to be described.
Right.
Who needs a channel of other people's content that has description on it? You can get it everywhere anyway. So we really changed the focus to creating our own original content. And that's where you see all the shows on the website.
Right.
That's where you see a big investment in our own Canadian content, a big investment in our own platforms like our website and our mobile app and things like that. And really creating a channel that's focused on the blind and partially sighted community and all disabilities and content for them. So it could be anything from our morning shows like Live from Studio 5 on audio that we simulcast on TV, which kind of talks about the news of the day from a perspective of a person who is blind or from the disability community, to specific programming, be it Employable Me or Eyes for the Job, where we actually have people from the community represented on screen. And then the third part of the content is once in a while we'll take other people's content like a movie, but we'll talk about the description in and out of the breaks and kind of add an accessibility angle to it. So it really flip-flopped. I would say probably 5 years ago, we really shifted and moved away from buying other people's content, adding description, just playing it out, to becoming a media company that's focused on original content for the blind and partially sighted community.
So in that 10 years, I mean, it must have been a really interesting 10 years, because when you guys first started, I mean, was there anybody else doing audio description?
No, it exploded. So, the broadcasters are only mandated to do 4 hours a week, and they would bury it in the middle of the night, on some easy content. There was really no demand. There's really no demand or awareness for it. So it's like night and day. It's totally shifted. The understanding of government, the understanding of the CRTC, the advocacy that we promoted over those 10 years, I think, went a long way. We represented the community at the commission. We represented the community at government. And the perception amongst broadcasters in Canada has really changed along the way, too. The understanding of the importance of accessibility, the understanding that there's a huge market for it, and that they should be participating in this. So it's been a huge transformation. And I think we can't take all the credit, but we'll take a lot of it, because I think we advocated very strongly on behalf of media accessibility across Canada. And now we're kind of held up as a gold standard within the Canadian broadcasting system.
Just going back to your previous statement, you were talking about your mobile app. And one question I had is, you guys have had an iOS app for quite some time now. Can you tell us if or when an Android app will be coming out?
Yeah, so that's a good question. So when we launched our app, we do what we call our tech monitoring research every year. So we do a panel, and we actually have a panel of people who are from the community in Canada, blind and partially sighted Canadians. And every year we do kind of a benchmark survey on technology use. And when we were looking at launching our app, it was overwhelming iOS, the use within the community. When we did that same survey for the third year in a row now, that shift is changing dramatically to more Android app usage. So it's still dominated by iOS, but there is a strong push for Android. So we are in the process now of looking at developing an Android app that we will launch within the next 12 to 18 months. And that's something that we weren't prepared to do as soon as this, because we thought iOS really dominated the community, but we saw within our research there's a dramatic shift in the last year and a half.
Yeah, no, that's totally understandable. My thinking being totally blind as well. And, I've been on iOS, I've been on Android. And, one of the things Android has going for it is, there's many more choices of phones out there at lower price points. And the accessibility now is almost, if not on par with iOS. So that's great news.
Yeah. That wasn't always the case, though, 3-4 years ago at the time. So that has really changed in the last couple of years, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
How often are you guys developing new content?
Yeah. So we're morphing into more of a specialty channel. So we are morphing into more like a slice or a HGTV channel, where we're really focused on disabilities with our target audience of blind and partially sighted. So we're on the English side, we're doing over 100 hours of original content, new original content per year that we're producing ourselves. And on the French side, it's close to about 80 hours per of new original content. So we're really driving our original content production. We want to have this whole reservoir of content that we can repeat as much as we want. So when you turn the channel on, you're going to get accessible programming 100% of the time. Two, we own the rights to that content, so we can push it out multi-platform. So we can take and put it to our iOS and our future Android app, or we can run it on our website, or we can look at selling it to future OTT services like Netflix or Hulu or Crave or wherever it may be. So there's a huge push on our behalf to create as much original content as possible, where we own the IP on that content and we can push it multi-platform.
Just saying, AT Banter, the TV show.
Oh, they've already got Double Tap Canada. We got some competition there.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, if you got an idea, you can always log on to AMI.ca, and there's a whole form for you to fill out with your idea. We'd love to entertain it. So always looking for new original ideas on content.
Well, I know that on our Halloween show, when Steve carved a pumpkin live, he cut himself.
That's right.
And that was
great entertainment.
That was we got a large response from our audience for that. So maybe we could develop a show where just every week Steve cuts himself with a different object.
Sounds good.
Cutting edge programming.
That's right.
People want blood.
It's a whole genre on that, isn't there? Right.
That's right. That's right. So that's what people loved about Game of Thrones. It'll be our Game of Thrones.
Right.
It's time for another episode of Ow with Steve.
Yeah.
What not to do with Steve Barclay.
So in the U.S. and to Europe, does it kind of still surprise you that nothing like this exists there? Has anybody reached out to you guys and said, look, this is amazing what you guys have done. Can you give us any pointers? Do you hear any rumblings that there's something that's going to be starting up?
I think yeah. In countries like in European countries like the UK or in Australia, there's a push. Like the BBC does a big push on accessibility and things like that. So they're kind of following suit with us. The thing that separates us from other countries is the way that we are funded. So, for instance, we're what's called a 918 service. So we're a must-carry service, and we're must-carry on Digital Basic, and they have to pay us a certain rate per subscriber per month. So we have guaranteed revenues. That makes a huge difference. And we're a not-for-profit, so no one's getting rich off this. All the money we make goes back into the content. So that doesn't exist elsewhere that I'm aware of, and so they kind of rely on the traditional broadcasting model where you got to sell ads, or you got to do this, or you got to get distribution. Whereas all that goes away from us. So other channels like ours would be something like APTN, Aboriginal People's Television Network, is the same as us. CPAC is the same as us. And I really think that's a unique part of the Canadian broadcasting system that is special, because without that, we don't exist. Without that, I don't think APTN exists. And they're very powerful brands, and they create great content, and they tell great Canadian stories. So it's part of the way that the broadcasting system sets up for us.
Yeah, that makes sense.
A lot of people are envious. So, like when I go to the States and present our network, everybody complains about why can't they have it. So,
is there any difference between the various political parties in terms of support for you guys? Are you being threatened by any of them with defunding or?
I'm be very careful how I answer this. No, it's really I've been in this job with both conservatives and liberals and on the federal level and both on the provincial level here in Ontario, and the support for our service hasn't wavered. I will say that the Minister Quattro, the Minister of Disability and Sport, that ministerial role, I don't think it existed in the Conservative government. That's a newly appointed role within the Liberal government. And we deal with the minister on an ongoing basis. We share our research with her. We advocate on her behalf. She interviews with us quite often. So I would say that's been the benefit. But if power changes, there's nothing to say that a Conservative government or NDP government wouldn't offer the same thing.
Excellent. Good to hear.
And the new ACA, has that impacted you guys in any way?
Well, I tell you the one thing it has done is it's brought a huge awareness to disability, right? So it seems to be the hot topic of the day, which is good for us because that's our brand. So from a logistical standpoint, no, it just gives more support to what we're trying to accomplish here. Right. More support for a funding model and more understanding within the public. But it just seems like the disability or accessibility seems to be a topic that it's in the forefront now, whereas 5, 6, 10 years ago it wasn't.
Thank you, Microsoft.
Yeah.
So going back to talking about described video, how realistic do you think it is that one day it'll just be 100% all programming on any given channel is just described? It's just what we do. It's like closed captioning.
Yeah, is now. I think on Canadian content, I think that's already happening. To be honest with you, the exception is with live. Live is tough.
Yep.
Live and news, right? So that's the tough part. But if it's just like dramas or documentaries or comedies or that sort of stuff, or long form movies, that kind of thing, that's already happening on Canadian productions. The issue is lobbying American productions to do the same.
Right.
And that's out of our control. That's not something I can do or we can do at AMI. So I think in the future, they'll eventually catch up because I think there's going to be a demand for this and a voice for this. But it's already happening in Canada. If you turn on CBC and you look at their schedule, the majority of their content is described. Anything for any other major Canadian broadcaster. It's really just with the exception of live event and news.
So in terms of that, in terms of that American content, have you seen any movement in terms of is it getting at least a little better, or are there more? Because we know that things like Netflix, like all the Netflix originals have described video. Is it getting better?
Right. I do. Yes. I don't want to sound negative, but yes, it is getting better. You would notice, I think it was 5 years ago when they launched their new superhero show and they had their first description on it. There was a huge backlash on that. So when they launched without description, so there was a huge backlash on them. They added description after the fact. So I think there's just a need of awareness within the production industry that it's not costly. It adds a huge benefit. It gets you more people watching or consuming your product. Well, why wouldn't you do it? I really believe in the States it's an awareness issue.
Right.
So I think the ball is moving, just not as quick as it is here. They don't have the tools in place to do it like we do here in Canada.
It's funny. I think that described video in general just still isn't really, as a concept, I think that even within some of these communities, I feel like it really has to develop traction. It has to be, people have to realize that this is a viable option, because, I keep thinking back to all the stories I'm always hearing about movie theaters, for example, and the described audio equipment in movie theaters a lot of times are broken, or it doesn't work, or the staff doesn't know how to use it. It doesn't seem to ever be in demand. Here we have this technology in place that allows for this and allows for visually impaired people to sort of experience this media, and it's just stagnating in some ways.
Yeah.
And that's
I think the one thing that may help you with that is the new. I don't know. Are you guys Rogers or Shaw? You're Shaw.
Shaw.
You're calling from Vancouver, right? So you're Shaw.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah. So they have the new Blue Sky box
Right.
Yes.
with the voice activation.
Yep.
That makes a huge difference, right? Because that makes turning on accessibility really simple. It's not a hard thing to do. So that's a big game changer with respect to how people consume the content or get to it.
Yeah, we actually had one of the Getting Together with Technology groups in Edmonton do a video on the Blue Sky box, and everything from telling you what all the buttons on the remote did to actually turning on the voice guidance, being able to bring up the channel guide and have the audio actually tell you what's on, what time, what channel, and being able to set your own PVR recordings. So they've taken a big step forward.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and I would highly recommend it. We have it in my home, and it's awesome.
Yeah, no, I would absolutely.
Can you say that? Can you say that again with the word Linda in front of it?
That's right from the president of AMI.
That's right.
Yeah, no, it's. I have the Rogers Ignite in my home, and we use it all the time, and it's great. It's a good product, and I saw it for the first time in the States when it was at Comcast, and it was the guy who developed that was one of the major developers at Comcast who put that product together is from the community. So he's figured it all out.
Sorry, Rob. One of the questions I had, and this is probably an issue for all of us who are visually impaired or blind, is there is no one central TV guide that actually tells you what show is described. It's hit and miss. You tune to a channel.
Nope. You haven't been on the AMI website. We have the DV guide there for you.
So,
we actually have a central DV. Yeah, we have a central DV guide that you put in your postal code. It'll give you the options of what carrier you are. So it'll give you Bell or it'll give you Shaw out there, whatever it may be, or TELUS. You plug that in, and it gives you a total listings of all the program that has description available on your dial.
So that's CTV, Global, CBC, all the Canadian
everything.
Networks? Really?
Everything, even the American channels. Yeah.
Oh,
if you go on AMI's website, it's there.
Okay.
It's on a DV guide.
I'll have to go back and look.
Boom.
Now I need it in app form.
In Android.
Well, that's the other thing too. Like the app. We think that over time that our mobile app is going to really be one of our number one driving uses of content.
Yep.
Because it has all of our original content on it. It's easily searchable because the phone itself has accessibility built right into it. You can kind of pause and stop and kind of download and do that sort of stuff. So we're really excited about adding more and more content to that mobile app to get us to the next level for sure.
Excellent.
Well, that's awesome. Look at that. You learned something right.
I did indeed.
Yay.
Now I just have to move my computer to my living room.
And convince your wife.
And convince my wife to get the new Blue Sky box. The problem is, though, Shaw Blue Sky's been out for 3 to 5 years now. As soon as I get it, they're going to come up with a new system.
Oh, Ryan.
So I'll be behind again.
No. They're doing a whole big changeover to IPTV, and it's there to stay. It's like that old brown Rogers box or digital box used to have. Remember that with the clunk, clunk, clunk on it forever? You thought that was never going away. It eventually went away. So, no, you're going to see this is the future. It's IPTV TV, so it's not over cable any longer, right? Mm-hmm. It's using data rather than actual cable, so you can fit more channels in a smaller space of spectrum, and it's two-way. And it allows you to surf Netflix and all the over-the-top services as well, and you can search YouTube or the website over the web using the box.
Right.
So it's a real game changer. It's like your home panel of everything there for you, and it's all voice activated. So it makes a huge difference to people from the community. It's not just about TV and broadcasting; it brings everything to you.
Right,
man.
I should go work for Shaw or something.
Yeah, you're doing a good sales pitch.
Doing a good job here, aren't I?
Good.
One of the questions I had, and I don't know if you've still got it listed there, Rob, is a lot of your reporters, field reporters, on-screen people are from the community, are blind or visually impaired. How would people go about getting involved if they were interested?
Sure. So we wanted to make sure that our shows were being produced by people from the community. So most notably by our reporters. And we did a huge recruiting process. And we've developed a lot of on-air talented people. So people like Kelly from Kelly & Co. or people like Dave Brown, they had no broadcasting experience, and we kind of took them from ground up and developed them into that. And a long-term goal for us, I'd love to see someone like Dave Brown or Kelly end up on a CBC or a Global, as just a regular broadcaster.
Yeah.
If they can do the job, they do it for us on a daily basis. So that's kind of the long-term goal. The next priority for us is getting people not just on screen, but behind the screen. So we want to kind of help people get into the production side of the business or the business side of the business. So we've actually launched in the last year 2 programs. We launched our intern program, where we are working with either high schools or colleges within the area across our office. We're offering intern positions. And we also have a mentorship position where you can come in and kind of job shadow someone within the company, just to get a sense of if it's something you're interested in and going forward with, just to try to get more people from the community involved in media and broadcasting. So that's 2 programs that we've offered for a long time, for a short time, and just on-air representation for a long time now.
Right. And if you have a few more minutes, we haven't really touched on AMI audio much. Can you kind of tell us what the difference is between the two and why there's the 2?
Yeah, so AMI Audio has been around for over 20 years now, and it was originally launched as a reading service. So at the time when screen readers weren't so ubiquitous and mobile devices weren't so easily to take content and add voiceover to it, there was a real need for reading services, and audio performed that very well. That being said, we still do some reading services on audio, and it's mostly magazines or books or shows or things that you can't get in an audio format. So we'll provide that to you. We've actually kind of morphed it into more of an immediate information thing. So it's an audio service rather than a television network. So there's no pictures with it. Because it's audio, it allows us to do things more immediate. So if there's like a breaking thing, like in Vancouver, we can go down and cover it from an audio standpoint rather than trying to get a whole TV and production crew around there. So it's more immediate, it's more newsworthy. And we do that. I don't know. You guys watch any of our live at Studio 5 in the morning, live at 5 in the morning, our show?
From time to time.
So we have that show running, and the purpose of that show is to kind of go through the day's events, but also reach into different communities. So we have community reporters throughout the country from small little towns from the community who are blind and partially sighted. And they just kind of, because it's audio and it's easy and it's an easy technology to use, allows us to kind of get into those community reports and immediacy of it all. So it's kind of more from a reading service to more of a radio programming service dedicated to the blind and partially sighted audience.
Right.
So we simulcast that morning show on TV, on AMI TV. It's kind of like a news of the day from the perspective of the blind and partially sighted community.
Yeah, you got to catch it though here on the West Coast. You got to catch it later in the day because I don't want to get up at 5 a.m.
Yeah, no, we repeat it, but you're not getting it live. Yeah, no, I know. That's a traditional West Coast concern that I've heard many times over my 27 years of broadcasting. So we thought about that.
Is what it is.
Yeah, live at 11:30 would be a way.
Live whenever we get up.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why we have.
Yeah, and that's the thing too. Like the use on our podcast on that show is quite high, and shows like that. I think people are just the way that they consume them is really changing. The live portion of it isn't all that important anymore. It's like. Yeah. I'll just download the podcast and listen to it when I want to listen to it, or type thing. So it's really changing. So,
well, we do.
But that being said, I hear the concern on the West Coast.
Well, we do the same thing with TV, right? Like my wife doesn't watch live TV; she'll record everything and then go back and skip through the commercials later. So it's the same with podcasts.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. don't skip all the commercials. Got to get paid somehow, right?
Yeah, really, Ryan.
Sorry.
If you want this to work, if you want these things to survive, you got to watch some commercials.
Okay.
But anyway, that's a different topic, different day.
Exactly. I have one more question if you guys don't have any.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. Where or why do you guys get your existing content, such as like Matlock and Suits and stuff like that?
Yeah.
Stuff that's been off the air for a while.
Yeah, so that's a pet peeve of mine. Okay, so we are trying, not struggling, wrong. We are trying, edit that out. We are trying to make our programming more consistent. So you got to fill a 24-hour day. And to do that, you've got to either run your own original content, or you have to buy content from other people and run it. And shows like Matlock and Magnum PI, whatnot, you can get them relatively cheap,
right? And
you can run them a lot. So you can eat up a lot of hours during the day with that type of programming. Over time, you're going to see a significant change in our scheduling, starting this year, actually. As we have more and more of our original content, that's going to replace that content.
Okay.
So that's what we're trying to wean off of. It's like cheap programming that's easy to buy, easy to subscribe, and you can run it a lot. It just eats up a lot of hours, and then prime time you can run your major shows.
Right.
But it helps you keep the thing running during the day. So we're moving away from that over time. You're going to see less and less of that as we move forward.
Well, I'll watch more and more of it if you bring Dukes of Hazzard on.
Yeah, I could try.
Just submit it in the form, Ryan.
That's right.
Submit it in the suggestion
Feedback
form
at
on
AMI.com.
Yeah. But that's what you'll see on a lot of specialty channels. That during the day they're running a lot of that old kind of content, or they're running their own original content that they can really run a lot of and not burn out plays.
Right.
When you buy content, you buy so many plays.
Are you done, Ryan?
I'm done for now. I know where to find them.
Uh-oh. Sorry, David.
Hey, no problem. No problem. I'm more than happy to do this whenever you guys are up to it. So it's I enjoy these things, so it's not a big issue.
Well, awesome. Well, hey, thanks for taking some time out and talk to us. It was an absolute pleasure. And expect our submission for our suggestion for a show in the coming weeks on the AMI forum.
Right.
Look
forward to it.
Well, before we let you go, where can people find AMI online?
You can go to AMI.ca, and all the information is there. And you can also enter AMI.ca/DV guide to find out what listings and what channel in your local market for AMI. So that's your best source of information right now. So thank you.
Perfect.
All right. Thanks again, David.
Thanks, guys. Take care.
Thank you.
Care.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Have a great day.
It's like, I'm not giving these guys a show. Well, it's a look at the industry that we wouldn't normally have a look into, right? So there's some interesting tidbits in there. Yeah,
for sure. I mean, I was far more pessimistic about the state of audio description before talking with David. So it's interesting to hear that we're actually doing pretty good.
Oh,
and not only that we're so unique.
Here we go.
What?
Rob's an optimist again.
Well, you know what really surprises me is that there's not more European countries with a similar sort of model. Because, we always think about Europe as being quite socially progressive when it comes to disability issues, but
yeah, especially the BBC.
In this case, they're lagging behind.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I know that the BBC is very involved in a lot of disability advocacy and stuff. I see it all the time online. So I'm kind of shocked that they don't have a spin-off channel like this. So that's okay.
But good for us. Good for Canada.
That's
Yay.
right.
Absolutely.
We suck at hockey, but sorry.
All right.
Actually, I don't even know that. Did we? I don't know who won last time.
Fight in the guitar dungeon. And in this corner, we have Rob the Optimist.
Let's be honest. They're all Canadian anyways.
A lot of them.
Doesn't matter. Who cares?
And that's been Hockey Talk.
That is Rob blaspheming again.
I'm going to pitch that show for AMI Hockey Talk with Rob.
Be a short show.
Who cares?
I don't like sports show.
Boo sports.
Yeah.
Oh, dear. Okay, anyways, what were we talking about?
Yay, kitty cats.
Yeah, so I think you need to get that Blue Sky box, Ryan. I think we need to advocate.
You know what?
For you.
The reason I didn't really fight Linda on this is because I watch 2 programs on TV. I don't watch TV.
Well, maybe you would if
there's nothing on. There's nothing on that I'm interested in. Because when I do ask her, to look at what's on at 7 o'clock or 8 o'clock, like CTV has an app, and I can look at the full schedule for whatever day I'm looking for. It doesn't tell me what's described, but I can really see what's on. And I could probably do that with a global app and CBC app and so on.
Right.
But as far as I know, there's just really nothing on I'm interested in. So
check out that AMI schedule, and maybe you'll see something on one of the other channels that you don't currently get, and then you can go and demand Lynn to get it.
Yeah, and then I'll tune into it, and it won't be described.
That's why you go to the AMI site.
That's right.
So it'll tell you if it's described.
Exactly. Yep. We just got to get the internet companies like the Amazons and Netflix is already doing a lot of it, but the Hulus and the Craves, like I don't even know if anything is described on Crave. I don't have Crave, so.
Yeah, that's a good question. That's a good question.
Yeah.
Because everything is going IP, right? Like, do you think we'll see a day where there is no cable subscriptions? It'll all be online media.
Well, what was really interesting when he gave the straight up number of what it costs actually to audio describe an hour of content. It's $1,000. I mean, you throw that in the production budget of any given show, and that's nothing.
Peanuts.
It's nothing to them. It's throwaway.
That's their lunch budget for the week.
Yeah, that's true. It's the catering.
less than.
Probably. Yeah.
I guess it just comes down to demand. I mean, especially down in the U.S., where, let's be honest, probably 70-80% of our particular media content comes from.
Yeah, well, and I wonder, is audio description covered in the ADA? We're having this whole website accessibility fight right now, right? Is audio description in there anywhere?
I don't know.
That's
a good question. Is it in the ACA?
I don't know.
I know. We don't know. We know nothing. No?
No, I don't believe so.
Yeah, it's not mandated. I mean, that's a separate thing, the whole mandate of the primetime content. Hey, Ryan.
Rob.
Where can people find us?
They can find us online at atbanter.com.
They can also drop us an email if they so desire at cowbell.
Oh, hang on. Wait.
Wait. Hold on. Let's do that again. At cowbell. Oh, shit. I forgot the rest of it. Okay, sorry. We got to do it again.
Wow.
At cowbell at atbanter.com.
You're just stunned by your hockey talk earlier, aren't you?
And they can also find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
Yes, indeed.
Yeehaw. Anything else? Anything else in closing thoughts, Ryan?
No, I'm done.
All right. Well, that is going to about do it for us this week. Thanks, everybody, so much for listening in. And we will see everybody next week.
This podcast has been brought to you by Canadian Assistive Technology, providing low vision and blindness solutions across Canada. Find us online at www.canasstech.com. That's CANASSTECH.com. Or call us toll free at 1-844-795-8324. For all your assistive technology servicing needs, call Chaos Technical Services at 778-847-6840 or find them online at chaostechnicalservices.com.
Whoa, look at that. Master of the one take.